you even look at like a guy like Ovechkin. I'm not demeaning him when I say this,
Yes.
but like he's a goal scorer. It's not a lot else. I mean, he plays physical. I'm not, again, I don't want to take. He's Alex Ovechkin. He's the first ballot Hall of Famer. But like, there's the goal
Evan's
scoring
saying
and there's
that
the physicality.
Ovechkin. Evan's saying Ovechkin's the Rutherford B. Hayes of NHL. Sorry,
You
I
clip
digress.
it. YouTube,
Yes.
YouTube Shorts it. Instagram Reels, TikTok. Boom. It's an easy one. And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 179. Connor, we're getting up there. 179
World is hell,
episodes. Oh, we gotta do something big for 200. No one else will just come on here and gotta, shoot the shit about the Bruins, which is what the people want.
Yes.
That's what I think. That's
We'll be
that's
all
paramount.
talking about like the 99 or our favorite Christmas gifts. We'll just have be like a 2-hour episode just of that.
We gotta play the hits of what annoys people the most, which is
Yes.
just us not talking about the Bruins. So we gotta do
course.
30 minutes to an hour on everything other than Bruins. You can get our opinions on everything. But yeah, 179. That's Conor Ryan, Evan Marinofski. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. And there's been an interesting development. This is a discussion, a topic we've talked about quite a bit since the end of last season, since the playoffs. But Jim Montgomery had practice on Friday because the Bruins, again, have not played since 1874.
I believe that's correct. I think that is the year. It gets kind of jumbled up. It gets in that little stretch. It's like it's the same. You don't know what president was there. It's like, is it Rutherford B. Hayes? It's all blends together up there. But I believe, yes, 74 is the year.
If you snipe that with the president, I don't know who was president then, but if you snipe that, that'd be pretty freaking impressive. You can check that as I segue into a non-1874 topic. Jim Montgomery was asked about, the Bruins have 6 games in 10 days coming up, because of course they do. And, were you wrong? Who was it?
Rutherford B. Hayes, 1877.
Oh, you just missed that.
It was Grant.
The $50 bill. Were you a big history buff in
I still am. I don't lose that. So
yeah, no, that's a good thing to have.
I didn't. Shout out to Rutherford B. Hayes. I didn't do him justice there by getting him a proper shout out. So my bad.
Yeah, sorry to Rutherford.
Yes.
Our bad. Your bad, not mine. I would.
Yeah, that's true. You didn't do anything. You didn't besmirch. You didn't besmirch the president.
I didn't want to, jump over you or anything. Obviously I knew 1877. Duh. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But I remember there was back in the day, there was like this little kid who would go on the Ellen show, and he was like a presidential No, it was a girl, little girl who was a presidential expert, was obsessed with the presidents. And one time they had Obama come out, and she like met him, and it was a big thing. And I just remember she like knew everything there was to know about presidents, and I think that's fascinating. I'm with you. I love like a good historical documentary. I just watched one on HBO about the Kennedys. That was interesting. There was one on like the Bush dynasty. I watched that. So yeah, I'll watch anything with like presidents or history. I'm with you on that. I enjoy it.
I feel like the Bruins haven't even practiced since I think Kennedy was in office. That's how it feels.
That's right. It's exactly. It feels like it.
We do bag skates not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Okay, let's go.
Ask not what we can do for you. Ask what you can do for the Bruins.
Yes,
that's more like it. I think that's more like it.
This is a very patriotic podcast now. Shout out to
this is
getting this started.
And JFK for continuing us on. But anyways, the Jim Montgomery administration. Let's focus on the Montgomery administration. This is gonna be a president. A whole day. The whole episode is going to be like presidential references. But Montgomery mentioned on Friday the idea of potentially going with a rotation in the playoffs. He was asked about the Bruins with 6 games in 10 days. And, will they continue the rotation? He said yes. Scott McLaughlin, our good friend Scott McLaughlin, WEEI, mentioned, hey, would you do that in the playoffs? And Montgomery basically said, yeah, I would. What do you feel about this? Because I think you and I are in agreement. It's a good move.
Yeah, I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? In terms of this goaltending rotation, I think when they're both playing at a high level, and you're able to, especially during the regular season, I think it's key in terms of keeping both those guys fresh. And again, when you kind of deviate from the script of what you've been doing the whole year, like maybe it gets the most out of guys if they are going back and forth in net, unlike in the playoffs when it was Ullmark for 6 games. And beyond the fact that I think his play dipped, and whether that's injury, fatigue, or just natural regression, not having that even split, I think, kind of threw the Bruins off their game a little bit, right? I think you look at just how that entire series went, and it just seems like the Bruins were staggered for the first time all year, just deviated from their scripts, didn't really know how to respond. So if you have that duo in place for the playoffs, not only does it keep both guys fresh, it adds an extra element of the other team having to game plan for 2 very good goalies out there. But it seems like it just gets the most out of both those players and have them playing at a high level. So definitely intriguing. Again, it's one thing to say it now we're recording November 17th, nothing to do it in April in the middle of it. Because again, what happens, it's human nature, right? What happens if Ullmark has a fantastic game 1, a 34 save shutout, and Swayman looks mortal in the next game, right? And then Ullmark goes again, has a great game. Do you stick with Ullmark? Do you go with Swayman and just have the faith in him to bounce back? Which seems like that's what the Bruins want to do. But when you're in that situation where you could go up 3-1 or what have you, or however it kind of maps itself out, or if you're down in a losing rut and both guys, Ullmark plays bad, however it plays out over a 7-game stretch, it's one thing to kind of talk about it, and preach it, but another thing to actually implement it during a game over a 7-game series. So will be fascinating. We'll be talking about this the entire year, I'm sure. We'll be talking about it probably ad nauseum.
It will never stop.
Once we get to February and March, in terms of what their plan is going to be. But when you look at how things ended last year, and you got kind of the same rotation in place once again, playing at arguably an even better, a higher level, and they're more important to this current team, might as well keep it rolling, right?
It's going to be a sick joke when they're out in the first round this year and they try the goalie rotation and they screw it up. And it's like, one year you didn't do the goalie rotation, it screwed you. The next year you did the goalie rotation and it screwed you. I agree with you. I think, and the other thing is, and I'll add to your point, if you're doing the rotation all season and then suddenly you say, all right, Linus, or all right, Jeremy, you're going to play every game from here on out. It's a big change from playing every other game, which is once every, 4 days, to basically every other day for 2.5 months. Right. I think that's a big change. And you saw it with Ullmark last year. Again, you mentioned injury, a little bit of fatigue. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, it's fine. There's no reason to mess with that. And again, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out if one of them, completely surpasses the other. But we're past just the beginning of the season. We are in the, we're heading towards not the middle, but, the first quarter of the season. And these two are still at the top of their games. Even though Swayman's been a little bit better, but that's like saying, in your terms, butter pecan is better than caramel iced coffee from Ducks, yes. You got too high level, right? It's like, yes. It's like picking between, Breaking Bad and Mad Men, they're just both elite tier shows. Mm-hmm. If one's better than the other, doesn't mean the other sucks. So, am I right on the butter pecan? Are you butter pecan over caramel?
I am, yeah. I disagree with Mad Men. I'm not a big Mad Men guy. I feel like people who like Mad Men have guys who they get Manhattans and they have one sip and leave it at the bar. But that's what people like. I'm a Mad Men hater. I'm sorry, Evan. I know
you are, which I'm pro Mad Men. I love Mad Men. But I don't know. I don't dabble in Manhattans very much. I do. I will say there have been times.
You should have said old fashioned is what it should have been. But
so that was.
I feel like Don Draper, and then you're like, wow, this is bitter as hell, and you just leave it at the bottom.
No, I was gonna say one time in college we went out for a nice dinner for one of my friend's birthdays, and we were at a nice establishment. I think it was in Northampton, and I saw an old fashioned on the menu, and I said, "Hell, I'm gonna try it. Why not?" And it was $17, and I took 3 sips, and I was like, I hate this. This just sucks. So I haven't gone back to it, and I that's why I don't do mixed drinks or hard alcohol very much, because if I'm not gonna like it, it's a lot of money spent on something I'm not drinking. So,
true.
But I know I feel you on that. I agree. But I loved Mad Men. I thought it was a fantastic show. But we can discuss that during the summer.
We go off air,
it's a little light. Yeah.
Again. Yeah.
I'll go watch a documentary on him. But again, It probably would be very boring. But to me, like, again, there's no reason to stray away from the 2 goalie tandem. And I know, you hit it there with like the one guy's great in game 1. What do you do game 2? What if you lose a game in a series because you didn't stick with one? I just, however they lose in the playoffs, we're going to be critical of them, right? We're going to second guess every decision they make because that's how it goes. Last year was egregious, though, because that was, I know it was going against the, it wasn't the norm, but you did have a goalie tandem all year that worked. And then you went away from that. I think if they did the goalie tandem all year this year, which they're going to do, and then they go to the playoffs and they do the goalie tandem and they lose, whether it's the first round, second round, third round, but they're still doing the tandem, there will be people who are critical of them, but they at least stuck with what they were doing, and it just didn't work. And that's when you kind of put your hands up and go, you know what? We tried our best. Goalie Bob tried his best. He tried his magic touch on the situation. And I think, again, we're going to crush them when they lose in April, May, or June. But I think if they stick with the plan,
you go down
it's
with the
hard
ship.
Exactly. You go down with the ship. So I'm with you. You got to stick with 2 goalies. And again, that's now. If things change, if one guy is way better than the other, or someone's coming off an injury, then it's different, right? Then the conversation changes. But if things continue at this pace, it would be really not a good idea to go off of the 2 goalie tandem. Speaking of things that are not surprising, by the way, David Pastrnak on a 60-goal pace again. He is 5th in the NHL with 11 goals, which 5th is like, it's 5th because the guys in first are tied with 13 goals. Yeah. So he's really like 2nd, but he's technically 5th, whatever. And he's fourth from our good friends over at FanDuel in the Hart Trophy odds at plus 800. So Pastrnak is number 4 on that list. McDavid, by the way, has gone to like plus, I think, 300. Yeah. Then it's Jack Hughes. I forget who's 3rd, or I forget who's 2nd or 3rd. And then Elias Pettersson is 5th. I think that is a great bet. I think that's an awesome sleeper bet. He's 5th. I think it's like plus 900 odds. But are you surprised that David Pastrnak is lighting the world on fire once again?
I'm probably a little surprised that it's at this rate, right? I think we all expected him to take a slight dip. And what's a slight dip for a guy who had 61 goals this year? Oh, I guess he'll only have 45. Like, that's still something where he's still so gifted offensively. But this is something that even Jim Montgomery mentioned on Wednesday, that he was surprised that he was out at this current pace. I mean, I think it was Kevin Paul Dupont of the Boston Globe did a piece kind of talking about the pace that Pasternak's on, and the last NHLer to have back-to-back 60-goal seasons, I think, was Pavel Bure. Like, a lot of good guys.
Jesus.
Like, a lot of good guys since then. Like, Ovechkin's never had, I don't think, back-to-back 60-goal years. I think only 8 NHLers have done it in their career, and it's a pretty good list to be in if you're David Pastrnak. So for him to do that with, again, Pasternak's so good that just off of that one time or off of his creativity, he can do a lot of damage. But when you don't have a proven guy at the bumper position and Bergeron on the power play that made things really easy for him, when you don't have David Krejci at 5-on-5 play as well, a lot of it's fallen on Pastrnak to kind of be the play driver and the guy that can kind of carry guys along with him. And whether it's with Zacha, especially at 5-on-5 on the power play, however you kind of map it out, Pasternak's kind of elevated beyond being a star talent or a guy that can impact play whenever he's out on a shift. He's like your cheat code. You can put him in. It's like GTA San Andreas. He just hit the X button a couple of times, and all of a sudden you have a puck in the back of the net. That's like,
you have $1 billion in your GTA account.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's just how good he is now at this level of his playing career. And like, I think what's most impressive about him is something that Montgomery mapped out on Friday is that it's not like he's, Ovechkin on the power play where you know what he's going to do, but he's so damn good at it that you can't stop it. Like, he adjusts to kind of whatever the defense or however the season's going on, that he's become more of a puck possession guy. He's on pace for, I think, career high in assists as well this year. He's trying to be more of a playmaker, but has that shot that he can turn to when needed. It's just whatever the Bruins need from him, he's so good that he can kind of adapt and roll with the punches while delivering with tangible results, right? It's not like he's being more of a puck possession guy and doing the little things that maybe don't factor into the score sheet. He's doing those things while also firing pucks into the net. Like there's very, very few guys in league history that can do that at a consistent basis, especially with how much turnover there's been on this roster just over the last few months.
You even look at like a guy like Ovechkin. I'm not demeaning him when I say this, but like he's a goal scorer. It's not a lot else. I mean, he plays physical. I'm not, I don't want to take. He's Alex Ovechkin. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. But like, there's the goal scoring and there's the physicality.
Evan's saying Ovechkin's the Rutherford B. Hayes of NHL.
he's clip it. YouTube shorts it. Instagram Reels, TikTok. Boom. It's an easy one. But again, the fact that Pastrnak can do those little things, be responsible in his own zone, is impressive, and still score at the rate he is with whoever is on the ice with him at any time. And he's not just being an empty net goal merchant. He is not just out there looking for the empty net. Before we get into the rest of our show, Connor, quick word. We mentioned him a little bit, but quick word from our sponsor.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use and you can bet on everything from spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And frankly, that's the best part about FanDuel, that you can bet on anything. You want to bet on how many wins the Patriots are going to have this year? Be my guest. Maybe how many shutouts Jeremy Swayman's going to have this season? Go for it. You can really do it all. So bet now on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
So David Pastrnak's still doing David Pastrnak things. I mean, again, I just, that one-timer, that release, like, so elite. Such an elite goal scorer. That's why I never understood, there's a little bit in this city, a little bit in this market of sometimes some hate for him, right? This, you hear it every playoffs. Oh, he's not a playoff performer. His playoff numbers, by the way, are bananas. So, yes. Like, I don't know where that narrative comes from. It's 'cause he's not tough. He's not Matthew Tkachuk. He's not rough and tumble. But my God, I mean, that is one of the best releases, finishes, anything in the league. So I don't know why you wouldn't want that on your team, considering for how long around here was the narrative, hey, the Bruins need a goal scorer. Bruins haven't had a goal scorer in a while. And it was a long time. I grew up with it. Even though that 2011 team, they didn't have a David Pastrnak. Most goals on that team, I think, was Lucic with 30. Yes. And like 6 of them were from the empty net. So again, I Pastrnak on a 60-goal pace. I'm a little surprised just given the guys around him, but I'm also not surprised because of how good he is. It's interesting on Tuesday, which was the last Bruins game. It wasn't 1874. I went and looked it up while the ad was playing.
That was a lapse in my, sorry.
And it was a little sooner than 1874, so I did have that wrong. Carissa Thompson told me it was 1874.
Oh, okay. Good.
I just went off that. Hard not to take it seriously. Anyways, Tuesday's win over the Sabres. They score a bunch of goals. Granted, they gave up a little bit in that third period. Again, I guess it's understandable. It's also not the greatest thing in the world. But do you think that's sort of a blueprint for how this offense can sort of pop when needed?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the defense being engaged and just getting pucks on net, right? That's something that Montgomery talked about before the season started, that a lot of the offense has to start from the blue line. And I think you're seeing it. Like, the one thing Montgomery has said is that even though this team's 5-on-5 numbers aren't really jumping out, even like their high danger rate is kind of more pedestrian than it was last year. And obviously this is a team that values, quality over quantity in terms of their shot selection. One thing Montgomery says they've been doing a pretty good job at is they're getting forwards to the front of the net. But in order to cash in on those chances and generate, even if it's not a goal, a rebound, tip puck, a grade A chance down there, you need pucks to fly in there and bounce off a skate, bounce off the goalie's pads, what have you. And they've been doing one part of it. You're just not getting enough shots from the blue line or from guys activating to make a difference there. So, I mean, Heinen's first goal comes off of a McAvoy shot where he's kind of being aggressive with the puck. Lindholm gets a power play goal. Again, I don't know how many times you're going to see Carlo join a 4-on-4 rush there. I mean, you'll take it, right? Good heads-up play by him. But I think when you look at the baseline model of what you need to do, it's all about adopting more of a shot-first mentality, especially when you have guys at the net. If there's no one around the net and you're just firing a puck from the blue line, that kind of goes against what Montgomery's preaching, right? of, giving up puck possession, having a limited, quality chance there. But if you have guys crowding around grade A ice, take the shot, right? I mean, look at how many teams. I was looking at a lot of other contending teams and kind of the blueprint for what they do. A lot of the teams that are very consistent in terms of their scoring, be it in the regular season and especially in the playoffs, a lot of it's offense generated from the blue line, right? Like we all know Carolina, a lot of their chances are off the forecheck, but it's guys activating, adding that extra layer of attack. And whether it's, you go through all the guys, Brent Burns, even Brett Pesce, Brady Shea, all those guys know when to jump up and kind of add that extra level of attack. And then even look at Florida, right? Florida, I think, had 3 of their defensemen were in the top 6 of shots on goal. You got Montour, Forsling, and Ekblad. We're all doing that throughout the season.
Oh, Montour would never pass up a shot opportunity.
Yeah. But even I was surprised to see Ekblad and Forsling that high up as well. But I think you saw it firsthand in the playoffs. Like when you've got a really strong team that can force turnovers, hold on to the puck, win pucks on the forecheck, then all of a sudden you're collapsing, you're got tired legs, and all of a sudden a defenseman activates in the high slot, fires in a puck. It's pretty effective, and it's pretty damn demoralizing, as the Bruins saw last year. So, again, I don't know if they have to augment their whole scheme to be like the Hurricanes and the Panthers, but when you have some really talented guys on the blue line there, just start getting more pucks on net, because you are having guys in and around the net kind of creating havoc there. So that's kind of, I think, been one of the main missing ingredients so far in terms of their approach in the offensive zone.
And that was missing from Cassidy's teams a couple of years ago. Like that was one of the biggest things. I remember when they lost to Carolina in the first round, that was, we got to change up, how the offense from our defense. And again, the Bruins do have the personnel to execute that. Lindholm, McAvoy, Brandon Carlo is sneaky pretty good at joining the rush.
Yeah.
He's had some goals over the years joining the rush and knowing when to go. But then you also have, a Shattenkirk, a Lowry, a Grzelcyk. Like those guys can and often do join the rush, and I just think you just need to sort of convert on some of those chances. But I agree, and it shows that the Bruins can score those goals. Now, granted, Buffalo defensively is not great. A little bit of poo-poo back there. Not great. But, it's funny because they have a promising group. Power, Dahlin, Clifton's back there too. Levi and net, Pekka Luukkonen. I think there's a lot of questions now with Levi of did they throw him in the fire a little too quickly up in Buffalo? So again, I do think that it's encouraging to see that, and you're right. A little more offense from the defense never hurts. Never hurts. Speaking of Grzelcyk, returning soon. What kind of lineup decision do you think this is going to pose for them? Because it's going to pose a decision, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of discourse from us and from lots of people over what ends up happening.
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating to see how they approach it. I mean, if you want to try to read the tea leaves of what Montgomery has said, he's already said that Grzelcyk will be activated. I think he gets off of LTIR on next Saturday against the Rangers at MSG. And from what Montgomery says, he's playing. It's not like he's available and he's like, no, we're putting him back out there. So is he replacing Lowry? Is he replacing Forbort? Who, again, I think Forbort's had his detractors in terms of, we all know how good he is on the PK, but 5-on-5 play, I think he's leading. And again, plus minus, but he's been really pretty steady at 5-on-5 play this year. So it's not like an automatic that I think you take Forbort out of the lineup just to keep Lowry in there.
Just to add to the Forbort thing, I was looking at Natural Stat Trick and kind of just diving in on the analytics, and his numbers were very solid. Yeah. Like at 5-on-5 especially. So I agree with you there.
Yeah. So I mean, is it do you put in Grzelcyk on the right side with a third pairing of Forbort and Grzelcyk, and Shattenkirk's the 7th D or what have you, right? Like there's a lot of different options they can have there. I think right now, probably the most realistic one is Lowry goes back down to Providence, gets steady reps, and really works on his game. Again, that's not set in stone. He could have a fantastic stretch here against some good teams. Montreal maybe isn't that good, but you got Tampa Bay on the road, Florida on the road. Like they're probably going to have a lot of tough matchups for him. If he impresses, then it gives the Bruins a good problem on their hands in terms of who slots out there. But I don't think it's a situation where I think, I'm not saying that Lowry, should be sent down just because of the numbers game or what have you, but I also don't think Grzelcyk should be penalized for being the guy that gets hurt and all of a sudden Lowry steps in here. When if you listen to what Montgomery has said, even asked him about it today of what has this decor been missing? He said that Grzelcyk's been one of their most consistent players all year in terms of not just killing plays and limiting chances on the rush, right? Where, again, he's not the guy that's maybe back there disrupting plays, but where he can knock the puck loose, kill plays on the other end of the ice, and limit how many times they're going back. He pays dividends there. Montgomery thinks he's been really shot ready and adding to that kind of extra layer of attack. So I don't think the Bruins are looking at this of like, all right, you got to earn your spot back here, Matt, like getting back into the lineup. They think he's back in that spot for right now. So we guys can see just how kind of the pieces fall there. But ask me right now, I think probably Lorai's the guy that goes, but to be determined, right?
Yeah, to be determined. I agree with you. I think, Lorai, it's been 6 games now. And, again, I think he's going to be a phenomenal defenseman at the NHL level. I think, he's got the offensive abilities, the puck moving abilities. I just think there needs to be a little more seasoning in his own zone. And I think the eye test supports that. The advanced analytics certainly support that. And again, there's no rush. There's no rush to and again, I'm very curious to see what he's like over the next week. Because again, as you said, it's good teams and it will be a legitimate test. But to me, I just go back to, Grizzly, you know what you're getting there. And they're competing. They're contending now. I mean, not that they weren't contending before, but they're the best team in the NHL at the moment. And, again, it's hard to have someone in the lineup learning the defensive zone and that kind of stuff on the fly. Obviously, he knows how to play in his own zone, but learning the ins and outs and the tendencies of other teams and different things like that. So, I am not in the camp of, hey, trade Grizzly. Grizzly's got to come back and you got to deal him immediately, because I just think that there's no point to that. So, I'm with you on that. Definitely going to be a big decision. That's going to be a day that Twitter will definitely be on fire. There will be lots of takes flying after duck. People are going to be hot off Thanksgiving where they're arguing with their relatives, probably over presidents.
Yes.
Probably over presidents. And then that decision. Yep. That's the hot button topic these days.
They don't bring it up. YouTube comments are going to be a cesspool now. Sorry, the Hayes stands, but I had to do it. I had to do it to him, Evan.
No, I had to do it to him. Hands over the, hands like the meme. Yes. But anyways, Connor, what can the people look forward to from you at Boston.com and the Boston Globe?
Yeah, we're gonna be covered every step of the way this season, whether it's game recaps, features, columns, all that good stuff. So you can read all of my stuff over at Boston.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever the hell it's called now, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
It is interesting. I don't call Twitter X. It's Twitter. It will always be Twitter. I see in his articles it'll be X, formerly known as Twitter, and it's X. What are you talking about? What's X?
Yeah.
So, anywho, that's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofski. Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.